So how might that be translated into the real world that you and I live in? I'm going to give you just two examples of building a movement. Number one, I come from a state not exactly famous for investing in education. Indeed, proportionate to the wealth of the population and the size of the population of the state of Florida, we fund public education from the beginning through universities, the least of any state in the Union. But in fact, back in 2002, we did pass a constitutional amendment for universal pre-kindergarten in Florida because we made the case it was about everyone's child. And this very day, 145,000 four-year-olds in the state of Florida are sitting in free to every family pre-K seats. And while we still have much to do to make pre-K as high quality as it ought to be, I promise you this would have never passed if we had only targeted some children. When Floridians saw it was about fairness and the future for everyone's family, they passed it by a 59% margin. Today we spend $360+ million more dollars than we were spending before on this one topic. Number two, a second example about the thinking about everyone approach. We have a law in Florida, you could have one like this in New Mexico, that lets voters in counties decide if they want to raise their property taxes to provide a dedicated funding source for children. Back in 1988, a group of good people in then what was called Dade County tried to do this. One of those people, you know her name. She was then the state attorney, later to be Attorney General of these United States, Janet Reno. She and other good people led the campaign and argued that the community ought to help the most needy. It failed 2-1. In 2002, we put it back on the ballot, and we made the case this time that while certain children needed more help and ought to get it, that this was fundamentally about the whole community and everyone's child. We passed it 2-1. This year, that means we have $100 million plus extra dollars for early intervention and prevention in Miami-Dade County. And what does it cost? The owner of a median assessed value home in Miami-Dade County pays $57.93 more a year for this. It's administered by an independent board called the Children's Trust. I'll give you one example of what difference it makes. 3 school years ago, we had a total of 19 nurses and 24 health clinics for the 4th biggest public school system in the country. Because of the Children's Trust, we now have 135 schools with now not only a nurse or nurse practitioner, but someone with a master's in social work, because so many of the issues are social, emotional, developmental. What's this mean? Is this social engineering or is this something practical? What it means is we have far fewer absences from school, improved academic performance, a decreased dropout rate, children are treated quickly, and parents are more productive because frequently they don't need to come back to school to pick up their children. Or I could tell you about the millions we're investing in higher quality, brain-stimulating childcare, and still more millions we are investing in programs for children with special needs. That's what happens when you invest and think about and have a vision that embraces all children. But I have better news. When we passed this back in 2002, we promised voters that we would sunset it in 5 years. And they could decide in 5 years whether they wanted it to go on forever or whether it ought to die. I don't know about you, but I haven't been any other referendums that I got to sunset any taxes. I want you to remember also that as economically challenged as you feel in New Mexico, come to where I live. We are a poster child for the housing crisis in this country. South Florida, Southern California, Las Vegas, we are where it's at. We're a community not only facing things like hurricanes, but stressed about all kinds of economic challenges. And I promise you it would be awfully easy to vote against any taxes, and make no mistake about it, the Children's Trust is a tax. But here's what did and can happen. In the latter part of last year, even as the economy tumbled, the people of Miami-Dade voted to reauthorize the Children's Trust in perpetuity, and I told you it was 2-1 last time. This time it was 85.4% of the vote. We have 764 precincts. It passed in 763 of them. And if you think we're an easy place to do business, I want to show you Miami sometime. That's not all we're doing. We have a major project with the Kellogg Foundation, which, as in New Mexico, is a great investor where I live, in a Ready Schools Miami project that now, in a full partnership with the 4th largest public school system, is working on realigning from pre-K to 3rd grade curriculum and professional development in 230 elementary schools and K-8 centers. We've increased the number of high-quality child care sites from 17 to almost 400. We have the best local early childhood website in the country and 24-hour phone lines, and everything we do is in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. The case I make this morning is a moral case, but I want to argue it in practical terms. It's in the self-interest of the people of New Mexico and Florida. Because this place is so special for so many, it sometimes is easy to overlook the pain and the poverty in which so many of our neighbors live every day. For the general community, for the leadership of the larger community to ignore any pain within the midst of all of us and ultimately imperils the whole of New Mexico. All of us want to live and work in places where people feel safe, where people have a chance for a wonderful education and a bright future. And New Mexico has its best chance for a bright future when everyone has a real chance to succeed. You heard Barbara talking about public and private. This cannot be done by public alone, and it cannot be done by private alone. That a real future for children will require a public and private effort, something that is exemplified in this partnership. A partnership put together to create the public awareness and the political will for the financing and the future of early childhood education and care for the state of New Mexico. The children need both you and me. As I said, this is work with great moral underpinnings, but I argue it in practical terms. The great American Frederick Douglass told us back in the 19th century, quote, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men."